In my previous video, I made a simple but uncomfortable point that losing land in history does not automatically justify violence in the present. If it did, the entire world will be on permanent fire. Many of you have responded very thoughtfully, but one argument keeps coming back again and again to me. It goes like this. By this logic, Hindus from Kashmir cannot claim their ancestral land back either. Basically, they are talking about equivalence of Kashmir to Palestine. At first glance, this sounds very clever. It appeals to emotion, it pretends to be fair, but it is legally wrong, historically inaccurate, and morally extremely misleading. So in this video, I will explain why Kashmir is not Palestine, why Hindu displacement is not a precedent for armed resistance in another land, and why this analogy survives only because clarity threatens certain narratives. Welcome to Vishleshan, our show on Drishtikon TV where we go beyond the noise, pierce through the propaganda, and expose the phenomena and actions that others are too afraid to touch or approach. This is not just about politics, you see, it's about rediscovering the truth. Today we will get clarity on the question, why Kashmir is not the same as Palestine. This false equivalence was also made by Srishti, and I've heard it from a Lebanese friend as well. We need clarity around this in unambiguous terms. First, let us begin with a foundational mistake. Modern international order does not operate on ancestral memory. It operates on sovereign borders, on treaties, on citizenship, and legal succession. If ancestral ownership justified armed reclamation, Greeks would attack Turkey, Germans would reclaim Poland, Muslims would reclaim Spain, and Hindus would reclaim Lahore, and Jews, well, they could reclaim half of Europe. But they don't, because history does not grant permanent military licenses. So when someone says, if Palestinians cannot claim Israeli land, Hindus cannot claim Kashmir too, they are already conceding the absurdity. They just don't realize it. So let's first talk about Kashmir. Kashmir was a princely state that legally acceded to India in 1947. This was done through instrument of accession, and the same legal process was used across India for other princely states. Kashmiri Pandits were Indian citizens living on Indian soil protected under Indian law. They were not displaced by a war between states. They were ethnically cleansed by jihadist violence in the late 1980s and 1990s. And this matters because Pandits are not asking for a new country, a foreign invasion, or a demographic takeover. They're asking for the right to return, property restitution, security guarantees, and justice within their own sovereign state, that is India. That is not revisionism, that is restitution. Every democracy recognizes this principle. Now let us address the Hindus from Pakistan and Bangladesh, which is another tough issue to deal with. What about those Hindus who were thrown out of what is now Pakistan and Bangladesh? Well, they were victims of partition. Partition involved treaties, population exchange, state succession. Borders were legally settled. India accepted refugees. Pakistan and later Bangladesh inherited sovereignty. No Indian government ever has claimed Lahore, Multan, or Dhaka because international law closed those claims in 1947. Hindus from those regions actually seek citizenship within India, which is exactly what Citizenship Amendment Act provides for. They also need dignity and safety, not armed reclamation of Dhaka or Lahore. And this is precisely how the post-war order works. Now, let's go to Palestine. Palestine was never a sovereign state. It was an Ottoman territory, and then it was a British mandate. Borders changed through multiple wars initiated by Arab states. And here's the key difference. Listen very carefully. The so-called right of return is not framed as restitution. It is framed as demographic warfare. It is explicitly intended to overwhelm another sovereign state, reverse a UN recognized political outcome, end Israel's existence, not coexist with it. That is why the refugee status is inherited forever, and violence is normalized perpetually. Citizens are targeted in Israel, and terror is called resistance. This, very plainly, is a revisionist war by another name. That is why this case is unique and extremely dangerous. Now let's talk about the moral sleight of hand. You see how this trick is being played? Well, Hindus' suffering is invoked not to defend the Hindus, but to justify jihadist violence elsewhere, in Palestine, in this case. Do you see the cunning moral blackmail that is being done in this whole argument? The Kashmiri Pandits are not bombing civilians. Partition refugees are not calling for armed struggle. Hindus are not demanding demographic annihilation. So let's stop pretending these cases are equivalent. They're not. Let me end with a single sentence that you should always remember. International law allows for restitution for displaced citizens, not perpetual war to reverse history. Kashmir is about justice within a nation. Partition was about accepting borders after a monumental but irreversible tragedy. Palestinian militancy is about undoing a state through violence. Those are not the same. And refusing to see the difference is not ignorance anymore. It is a choice, and a starkly dangerous one. If this argument made you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is where the clarity actually begins. If it made you think, then share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel. And if you missed my previous video, watch that first. This one completes the whole argument that was started in the previous one. And then tell us in your comments, how can a citizen's right of return within their own country be equated with a demand to erase another country? Aren't we confusing restitution within a sovereign state with revisionism aimed at dismantling another one? Please do comment. And until next time, Jai Hind.